resources. And there was only one course back then. And as more courses came out, I was like, oh, there's an AP course. Awesome. And then for summer school, I taught middle school. So it was nice to have middle school options. And
yeah, those options have just been exploding. The course catalog is crazy right now. And we can make sure we will show you that so you can see where to find all of those courses and try to find a way to sift through the many options we have. But before we get started, I just want to let you know who is here. So I am Julia, and I work on the PD team with both Don and Portia, who are joining us as well. So you'll hear from them throughout this session. And we're also joined by Joe, who is a teacher who uses CodeHS, and he's going to be letting you know a little bit about his experience with CodeHS, the things that he's learned and seen as he has used CodeHS in his own classroom. So it's going to be a really awesome way for you to get some information, be able to ask a lot of questions. If you've never used CodeHS before, or if you've used CodeHS and maybe you're just teaching middle school now, or you just want to know what other options there are, you're going to get all of those things answered today. So we're excited for you to be here. Awesome. I see teaching robotics and IT tech. Awesome. A lot of people who have taught CS before, but not with CodeHS. So this is great to see. You'll be able to see all the options we have to make your lives a little easier.
Wow, there's a lot of really cool stuff in chat. I wish I was in some of your classes.
I know, I want to be in aerospace rocketry.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I do want to, because we have a middle school crowd, Julia, I just want to plug really quick. I was on the curriculum team a couple quarters ago, and I made a game-based course that's 20 hours long. It's about a quarter, and it's called Coding a Game in Roblox. I have 2 middle school daughters, and they inspired me to make a course. It's in CodeHS, where students make their own video game and get introduced a little bit to the Lua programming language, and they don't have to have any previous experience in their own obstacle courses in Roblox. And if you want to know more about that, I can send you more information later, just so you know. It's a middle school centered course.
Yeah, I was looking through our slide where we're going to talk to you about all the courses we offer. And then I was like, wait, there's so many that aren't even in here yet because we have so many.
Yes, the Roblox course is my passion project. And Portia's on it. She already has the link in there. That's awesome.
Woo. Thanks, Portia. Yeah, we have a lot of different options because I know people teach middle school computer science in a lot of different ways. A lot of times it's not a full year course that you have with your students. So we have a lot of different modules and just units that you can throw in. I also taught a Girls Who Code after school club, and I used a lot of the CodeHS shorter units and projects for that. So we have a lot of awesome opportunities for you. All right, so it looks like it's 12:05. We're going to get started, so we have enough time to get through all of the information that we're looking for. So first, we have this whole slide deck, which has a lot of really good information. So if you would like to have those slides available to you, these will also be sent out in the email that we send with the recording after. But if you would like to have those to look through now, you can use this QR code or use this link that Portia has dropped into the chat. So this is an option for you to go through on your own, or as we go through today, if we go through something too quick and you want to revisit it. We also have a question parking lot. So as you'll see, the chat kind of gets really crazy very quickly. So we want to make sure that we have all of your questions answered and have a place for you to make sure that you can revisit that information. So this parking lot doc that Portia just dropped into the chat is your best place to ask questions. You can ask them throughout the session so that we make sure we get them all answered. There might be some questions that we think are really good for the whole group to to hear. So we might, bring those into our webinar, but this is a really good place for you to revisit your questions and your answers and see the questions that other people are asking as well. So that is a really good thing to have open as we go through today. All right, so our agenda, we did a quick check-in. We are going to get our account set up and enrolled in the workshop for today. So you have some information on CodeHS that you can view as we go through our session. We're going to start by looking at some course options. And as I was just saying, we have so many. We will make sure that we show you where to find the course catalog once we get to the end of our session. Then we're going to send it over to Joe, and he's going to give you a little bit of background how he got to where he is now, and what he teaches and his experience with teaching computer science for middle schoolers. We're going to look at a lesson in one of those middle school courses and dive into some of those strategies that Joe has seen be successful in the classroom when teaching middle school students. Then towards the end of our session, we're going to have a choice where if you are brand new to CodeHS, it might be, there's a lot of things that you can do on CodeHS. So we want to make sure you can see a little bit about how to actually get started and how to customize, because we have a lot of options for you to take different parts of our courses and our offerings and make them your own, because we know every classroom is different. So Don is going to go through that in the main room. And if you have some questions about specific curriculum or any questions specifically for Joe, we're going to go into a breakout room and you can choose to head in there so that you can ask those questions there. And then we're going to do a wrap up. And so we got a lot to cover. So let's dive in. All right. So first, I saw a lot of people brand new to CodeHS, maybe never used CodeHS before. So if you don't have an account yet, you are going to need an account to access the material for today's course. And you want to make sure that you are able to get to all of the things that we're showing you. So you're just going to go right to this link, which Portia dropped into the chat. And this will allow you to make a free teacher account. Make sure that you choose that you're a teacher. Because there are things that only teachers have access to compared to students. We do run a short verification process to make sure that it's not a student looking for answers. So that will take just a little bit of time, but you should be able to get your account set up and be able to get into the course for today. So you're going to first hop into this and make your free account. And once you have that, you are going to enroll in our section today. So once you have your account, and if you already have a CodeHS account, just log in. And once you're logged in, if you go into this link, this is how you're going to join the section as a student. So this is kind of how your students would join any of your sections in your classroom. It may ask you for a class code, and Portia put that in there as well. That's just the last 5 of the URL. So I'm going to give you just a few minutes to make sure you get your account in CodeHS, and then you join our workshop so that you are all set to have the information that Joe is going to present to you.
And periodically, for those of you that are joining late, we'll keep putting the slides in the question parking lot in. So don't worry. We'll keep reposting those because you don't see anything in the chat until you join. So
true. All right. So if you are having any trouble with that, getting into the section for today or getting an account, you can throw that onto the parking lot, and we will be able to help you out as soon as possible, because we have some people manning that right away. So we're going to dive into the middle school course options. But again, if you have any questions throughout the session, go to that parking lot and that will always be open for you. Oh, before we dive in, our last logistical thing to take care of is our attendance. So if you can go over to this attendance link, The reason we're putting it here is because you already need a CodeHS account to have it linked to who you are. So if you can click this, it should be really quick, just a way for us to know who is here today. And Portia put that link in the chat, so you should be able to get there. All right. We're going to dive into our options for our middle school courses. Okay, so we have a lot of, like I was saying, a lot of different options with regards to timing for courses and units for middle school specifically. We only really have one year-long course. I think we actually have a cyber course as well that is a year-long, but our computing ideas course is just going to be a survey course where students are getting a little bit of everything. A lot of those units that they have in the year-long computing ideas course are configured in different ways in those semester-long courses. So in computing ideas, they're going to look at Carol, which is an introduction to JavaScript, which is what we're going to look at today. They're going to look at what is computing, how computers work, how they connect to each other, web design to learn some HTML, look at digital info and how pixels are used to create images in computers, the internet, that connectivity between all of the computers, and then also a little bit of digital citizenship, which is a little bit of that cyber information as well, how to stay safe online and how to make the right choices. So then in our world of computing, intro to the internet and our creative computing, a lot of those are just mixed up in different ways. So in our world of computing, we have Carol and our what is computing, learning a little bit about what the computer is, and then learning that short intro to JavaScript. One of my favorite courses is creative computing, because in middle school, we're just trying to get kids to see what exists, right? What options are there for them and what really is computer science, because they might not know. So in creative computing, they're learning 3 different programming languages. They're doing intro to Carol in JavaScript. They're doing intro to Python with Tracy, and then they're also doing web design learning HTML. So that is a really cool way for them to just dip their feet in a lot of different languages and then see which one they really liked and if they want to continue with that. We also have these just as separate modules. So we have a bunch of these modules that you can configure however you would like. So those year-long and semester-long courses are already a way to put these modules together. But if you just say, I want to start from scratch, you can make your own course and pick which modules you would like. And as we were talking earlier, there are so many more options as well. We have the Roblox course that Don was talking about. We also have a course using microbits, which is a piece of hardware. So if you want to work with hardware, if you're doing, I saw some people doing robotics, that's a really good introduction there. So I highly suggest that you take a look at the course catalog, and you can filter for just middle school. So you can see all the options that we offer for just a middle school level. So we'll take a look at that later in the session. But yep.
And that's the latest link that Portia just put in there. It directs you to the course catalog, just middle school specific, so you can look through all that stuff.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Portia, for throwing that in there. You can get lost in that, though. I will let you know, you're going to go to it. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, there's so much. I want to look at all of it. So I would open that and leave that tab off so that you can focus on our session today, because we're going to kick it off to Joe, and he's going to give us a lot of awesome information and tips about his experience. So I am going to stop sharing here, and I'm going to let Joe take over.
Maybe I can't get the share started. Hold on.
Let me know if you need me to do it. I can click through for you.
Hold on. When you unshared, something just happened. Hold on. I knew this was going to go, Julia.
I know whenever it's shared, the view is different. So I hear you.
Hang on. There we go. Now I'm going to share. Got that done. We're good here. I'm gonna share. I'm gonna go full screen. Go view slideshow. Here we go. Before I show the first slide, I just wanted to let all of you guys know that how lucky you are to have Don and Julia and Portia in here. Those guys are total experienced pros, tremendously knowledgeable in the classroom and with the CodeHS platform, and have built this platform into what it is. So please don't hesitate to ask them questions, get involved in a conversation with them. You're very lucky to have them on this call today. They're tremendous. So I'm going to show you a quick video that sort of ties what the work that we do with our kids, with our students, to dreams. And then we'll proceed into talking about CodeHS here.
And as we leave the moon, we leave as we came, and God willing, as we shall return.
You probably dreamed of this.
Liftoff on Apollo 11.
You probably replayed this moment 1,000 times. You probably imagined the awe-inspiring, indescribable rush of the ride. You probably celebrated the miraculous, cheered the momentous, and mourned the shocking. You probably still dream of what could be. We did. We do. And while many thought we were through, no. We've been learning, we've been building, we've been training. And now, it's time. Because the next frontier is not just for the next generation. It's for this generation. It's for me, and it's for you. For everything we still dream about. We go as Artemis.
Whoa, and here's where I have trouble. All right, well, let's escape. Oh, let's go to the next slide. All right. I have come late to the classroom. I've been in the classroom for 8 years. It's been a pretty interesting road to here. And CodeHS, it's not an overstatement. CodeHS has been my career. CodeHS has made me a classroom teacher at McDonough School, and I couldn't be happier with what CodeHS has done for me. It's been quite a ride. So in 2001, I started a little service business. So just another guy driving around in a truck, fixing computers. And I grew the customer base. I did this for a while. And then after a while, could think about starting a normal job. And one of my customers told me to go talk to this local school because the school needed me. That's what the customer said. So I went and talked to them. I was very flattered to hear that. And I worked in IT there. I worked there for 5 years. I coached some soccer. I really enjoyed working with kids. And then I started into the formal process to become a teacher. And that looked really tough. That just started to look like a tough road. So I kept on with my IT. I kept building my skill set there. And I was hired by a different school to be IT director in 2014. And when they hired me, they gave me a job teaching one class, and the name of that class was computers. And it had been pretty stagnant for a long time. It was sort of about using the Office suite or maybe backing up. And I got a bunch of kids in my class, and they looked bored as all get out. And it was one of those moments where you're like, we got to do something different than what we're doing. And you guys, you experienced, or inexperienced teachers have all had a class where you had that sort of that look from your students, and you just want to run away. So we started looking around and trying some different stuff. And we tried actually a few different things with coding. and I kept my eyes on my students and saw how they're reacting. And then one day we tried CodeHS, and all of a sudden they're looking at this gamified platform. I didn't know that at that time CodeHS was pretty new. And they just loved it. They had a great time. They talked to each other. They enjoyed, moving up through levels. And there was all the content that I needed to support them sufficiently, but I watched them sort of grow through the platform. And it was just a tremendous sort of moment for me and for these students. And it's not an understatement to say that this platform and the differentiation that it offers, the gamification, the opportunities to collaborate and solving these problems was something all the students wanted to do. They talked to their buddies. They started working on it in other classes. The thing just completely caught fire at the school where I was. Blew it up. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. They were coding in their other classes, and other teachers were like, "What are you doing on that computer?" And they would walk around, and the guys were working on CodeHS. It was crazy. One of my students that first year also said something that stuck with me, which is computers are dumb. And I thought that was a really profound statement that Tyler said, and I've hung on to that. And so the trick with computers, at which CodeHS points out, is sort of like teaching a dog. You have to speak very clearly. You have to be consistent. And the idea, it's a question that I ask my students fairly early on, is why would you say a computer is dumb, and listen to what they have to say, and they probably will back that up. So let's keep going. There's a picture of 3 of my students in a different class messing around with CodeHS. Let's keep going.
Joe, just want to hop in here. Are you able to move your mouse away from the bar? Because I think the Zoom bar is covering up some of your, I don't know.
Whoops, let me back it up. Sorry.
You could just slide the bar down a little bit.
Let's do that. Thank you.
Yeah. Because you got some good stuff on there that we can't see. Or maybe all the way to the top, or
There we go. Now we're cooking with gas.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. So this is Don and Julia and Portia. This is a bit of CodeHS history for you guys. So we were, this was 2014, and assistant head walks into my classroom and goes, next year you're going to teach AP Java. I hadn't written a word of Java ever. I barely knew what the language was. And so I was voluntold to teach AP Java. And CodeHS was betaing their first AP Java course. And of course, my guys were really excited to be beta testers for that thing. And then Jeremy included us on his famous tour that he took, where he drove around the whole country and visited a lot of different schools. And he, of course, had Carol with him, which everybody thought was really cool. And it was an amazing day, the day that Jeremy came to visit Gunston. And it just sort of underlined how big coding had gotten at the school. It was a nice spring day. So let's keep going. If I can. Here we go. There we go. So we had guys putting turn right signs to direct Jeremy into the school. It's a rural area. And Jeremy and the car were big celebrities at school. Everybody couldn't wait to get in pictures with them. And there's Jeremy, there's Carol. That's Tyler Judd to the right of Jeremy there. And the school, of course, made a lot of hay out of it. It was an exciting time for them. And I had a lot of growth going ahead of me as a teacher. We all have strengths and weaknesses. I didn't have a lot of teaching training, and I'm not the world's greatest at getting all my students to do the exact same thing at the same time. So I've got a lot to learn, or had a lot to learn, still have a lot to learn. And so we headed off into AP Java my second year at the school. And the first time I taught AP Java, it was tough, but it's gotten better. And then I went to the CSTA convention, and I met a bunch of other teachers like you guys who are here today. And I am just so in awe of how well all you guys cope with all the challenges that you face. And it's a great experience for me to chat with teachers and to have dialogue with teachers. And I think you're going to find that the CodeHS is a tremendous tool that will let you do amazing things with your students. And I have to say, one of my favorite things, if somebody asked me the single favorite thing I have with CodeHS is that first day of Carol, because on that day, you'll have students who don't know whether coding is really for them or don't even know what coding is, and they will come out of those first few lessons and go, I can do this. And that's the bottom rung. That's a great thing for you to have accomplished for these students, because they can't after they've done some Carol, they can't say to themselves, well, I'm not a coder, I'm a soccer player, I'm a field hockey player, I do these other things, but coding isn't really for me, because Carol will show them that they can code. It's just fantastic. So I took some students up to Dartmouth. I had some discussions with a lab. I talked a whole lot of college computer labs, and the people at Dartmouth out of one of their labs were like, we want to meet your students. And I was thinking, okay, we're going to FaceTime. And they're like, no, we want them to come up. So they invited us up, and that was a really nice event that happened. So then a couple of years later, I moved to Connecticut to become a full-time teacher. I was a sort of part-time teacher and part-time IT director at my first school. And then I became a full-time teacher in 2017. That was a good time. And I had, surprise, surprise, with CodeHS, the same result, where it sort of blew up. And we had, actually, in the first month that I was there at Avon, we added two sections. We added an AP Java section, and we added an intro section. There was this tremendous demand. And again, that was the result of students, motivated students, seeing that this was something they could do. And of course, when they see that they can do it, they want to do it. And then we added another teacher and yanked me out of Algebra 1, which was fine with me. So there's a picture of this strange computer lab that we had, it was actually really cool. It was an old water tower that had been converted into a teaching space. And this was taken from a spiral staircase that winds around the middle of the old water tower there. That's one of my first AP Java classes. And then we took another group up to see the DALI lab, the digital arts lab at Dartmouth, when I was at Avon. That was a really fun trip that we had. And I had to move again after just 2 years at Avon, and I'm very happy to be in a place where I feel like I've got a skill set, and I'm happy to be able to work at the school that I work at now, McDonough School near Baltimore. I'm just loving it here, and I give an awful lot of credit for this to the CodeHS. So now let's dive. You guys know a little bit more about me. Let's talk a little bit more about three kinds of learners and different types of learners. And I know how important it is to all of you to pitch your lessons and your courses appropriately. And I find this huge divide in between adult learners, career changers, and high school students, in that adult learners and career changers tend to work in more big blocks of time. And if you go out on the internet and you start looking for teaching materials, or you start looking for content, suppose you were hypothetically a brand new AP Java teacher and you didn't know much about CodeHS, but you were looking for content to put into your AP Java course, you'll find an awful lot of online courses, a lot of fantastic lectures that run for 2 and 3 hours. And you start to realize that there's this very different profile of an adult learner, career changer learner, for whom there is an awful lot of content out there, from a high school student who's very busy and tends to have small chunks of time. And then also your middle school students, I also would put in that category of being busy. They're younger. They can be equally industrious, and in some ways maybe even more ability to focus than high school students. But of course, you need to think hard about what kind of learners these are. And when I was talking to Portia, Trisha, and Don earlier today, I was talking about the idea of block coding versus text versus typing in text into an IDE. And for some students, they're looking for ways to move past block coding, but I certainly want you all to know that I respect the idea of block coding as an introduction, particularly for younger students, to getting a process going. And I think it's a nice way to introduce younger people. So you as middle school teachers are in a place where you need to navigate that passage from block coding into text-based coding. And fortunately for you guys, there's an awful lot of CodeHS content where you can choose whether you want your students working in blocks or text. And there may even be some students in the class, you may decide you're starting a class with blocks, and there may be some students that want to go ahead and type in commands, and they can choose to go that path if they want to in CodeHS. So I think maybe what you've heard already this morning from Julia is that CodeHS is it's more scaffolding than it is an absolutely tied down program that you must follow explicitly. And so you guys who like to build courses are going to find that CodeHS offers all those capabilities for you. You pick and choose what you like, and you'll hear people like Don, Portia, and Julia talking about this, that this platform is about you making courses into what works for you in your classroom with your students. Another place that middle school teachers are is, how do we deal with failure? And those of us, if you code, you know that your code kind of doesn't run the first time you work it, and you've got to manage failure. You got to manage, what do you do when I'm stuck? How do I handle an error that I don't understand? And that's going to be important to deal with as you choose lessons and exercises moving through the CodeHS platform. So you might want to actually just ask yourself how this goes. So now that I've talked a little bit about tailoring stuff, I will tell you that in my experience, middle school learners can do incredible things. And I have a couple of students here who are now rising juniors who started on CodeHS in 8th grade. And then they just ran with it. I don't know how else to describe it. They knew they wanted to do a Lockheed Martin contest called CodeQuest, which is typically given in Java. And both of them had done a whole lot of JavaScript and begun writing Java code in 8th grade. And then in 9th grade, they spent a lot of time working in CodeHS Java and entered CodeQuest and won the darn thing as freshmen in the novice division. So at the same time, we want to be careful how we're going to pitch our courses. The difference learning that CodeHS allows with its gamification and the idea of letting people who want to go farther, faster, do more, there's nothing stopping them. And I certainly don't feel like I'm the person to say to anybody, you can't go on to that next level, you can't take that next course. And there's tons and tons of stuff to let your highest achievers go forward. So I keep swinging back and forth here, but our main task here, and I get given this task by Lockheed Martin, by the government agencies that I'm lucky enough to be around who are recruiting my students, is make sure that we're not weeding people out. And that's actually a reasonable objection to some of the content in the College Board's AP Java course, that it can turn into a course where people get intimidated, and we don't want to do that. There's all kinds of different uses for people's skills, their collaboration skills, their language skills. there's a place for every one of your middle school students as a coder or in a team that's building code. And it sure is a collaborative effort now as a profession right now. So if you have students that think that coding is some sort of isolated task that somebody does in their basement, it's anything but that. And some of your most gregarious students that are talkative and enjoy that social aspect of being in school, watch them turn into great debuggers and watch them turn into people who can make a huge contribution on a team that's trying to solve a tough problem with code. And the collaboration that you're working to teach them every day is going to really come in handy, and I'll have lots of opportunities in CodeHS to use that collaboration skill. So when I talk to any group of teachers about working with CodeHS, I typically say careful on the super complicated stuff, or in particular exercise that is really detailed. That doesn't mean don't do it, but I prefer to have to keep moving, to keep pushing on and learning another thing, add to your skill set. So the motto I have in my classroom is don't get stuck and don't stay stuck. You can come back. I have a whole big long speech about the Oracle spiral model, which basically says you should expect to fail the first time you write code, but you're going to be iterating. So you're going to use that failure as a way to learn and come back to it.
You know, Joe, speaking to what you're talking about, really quick, just to interject with the don't stay stuck.
Yeah.
This goes for teachers and students alike. Some
Absolutely.
people just like to go through circle by circle. And if they can't figure one out, they refuse to move forward.
Right.
As advice to all of you teachers and your students, don't be afraid to skip an exercise. Like, don't spend 50 minutes on one exercise. Go to the next one, and then maybe come back later, or ask someone at CodeHS if you can't figure it out, just as an aside.
Don, I completely appreciate it. And I appreciate you making that comment in this exact spot, because I think that particularly when you start with CodeHS and you see how cool of a platform is, you can develop a sort of over reverence for everything in it. And there's going to be things that just don't make perfect sense to you or don't make perfect sense to the students. And I think Don's attitude is exactly right, that you need to, have a somewhat of a jaundiced eye and really keep the focus on your students. And if you see them getting stuck, do whatever it takes to get them unstuck, and establish a general rule in the classroom. It's good to work on something that's a little tricky. It's good to make sure you understand everything, but for God's sake, don't stay stuck. And there's one particular exercise that has hung on in the early portions of Carol called random hurdles, and it is resolved with a for loop. And that's one, just to give you an example, that I've seen students get stuck on. And I remember then that very first iteration when I had all these great things happening, and I had a student named Bryn who was working on random hurdles for about 2 weeks. And I wish that I had spotted that she was stuck there sooner. But as a teacher, I think about Bryn, and I want to encourage you to develop an ethos in your classroom. Don't stay stuck. Ask your neighbor for help, ask a teacher, look at sample code, look at the docs. And another thing I don't like hearing, particularly from my students that are pushing on faster, is somebody turning around and saying that was easy. Everybody knows, especially the students who are flying high, that it's not easy. And they're saying it's easy is a way of encouraging the other people in the class to feel like there's something wrong with them, or that they're getting intimidated as unnatural in some way. Coding's hard. It's hard. It's hard to fly in space. It's hard to write code that works, and you're going to experience quite a bit of failure. So I love CodeHS, and I love the graduated way that you move forward through CodeHS, but there's nothing sort of easy about it. So let's keep going. So this slide is a bit about some of the issues that we're facing in computing, and I would say that we still have an ongoing issue with encouraging girls to keep going. They will bring everybody, girls and boys, bring preconceptions into your classrooms about, you know, who's a coder, who succeeds with code, who gets paid to write code, who gets paid to work in organizations that lean heavily on code. And those same organizations come back to people like you and people like me and say, please get us more applications from girls. Please help us build a more diverse workforce. We have to hear from everybody. We have to have everybody, all types of people in our workforce to build products and services that work for everybody. So we have to all face these kinds of challenges together, and it begins by communicating to all of your students who show up in your classroom that this is something for everybody, and we have to kind of keep hanging on that CS is for everyone, that our projects of our civilization that are based on technology, building mobile apps, is for everybody. There's so many different things to work on with mobile apps that are fascinating. We want to sort of unlash the concept that a coder is a specific type of person. And the middle school curriculum here, and my intro class also in high school, takes a sort of survey approach, and you would start typically with a sort of proto JavaScript called Carol that I love and I can't wait to talk to you guys about. And then we also do typically look at Python, which is another nice procedural language, and then we do some web design using HTML, CSS, and you can do some Bootstrap, which is a great way to produce very professional looking web page. So in a survey, you sort of hop around, try different things, and you get used to this idea as a teacher of movement in your classroom, where people are trying stuff, seeing what they like to do, moving on, trying something else. Oh, that I don't like that much. I'm going to do this other thing. And that's perfectly good. All of our CodeHS courses are web-based. That is, you can access them through anything with a browser. They don't work fantastically with phones or iPads, but they can be accessed that way. But pretty much anything else with a browser will enable you to work CodeHS. So you have some students with Chromebooks. You have maybe a few extra machines in your classroom. You have a classroom that is only where the students are only using computers that are based in your classroom. All those things can be used to access CodeHS, and they'll have success working through the CodeHS platform on just about any device. The length of the courses are made of lessons that are then grouped into modules, and you're going to have to judge your pacing and your plans based on how you see your kids progressing through the modules and how your lessons are going with different parts of your classes. And the really good news there is that you can and should take frequent looks at your students' progress. And there are a lot of tools in CodeHS that lets you do that. And I'll be going to a couple of them that I really like, even beyond the idea of, you know, how advanced is a student, or how many lessons has the student completed, going to more like how many times has a student logged in, how much does he or she do in a particular login setting, and those can be the basis for some useful conversations with students and parents. All right, let's push forward. I prefer not to have the courses be super long, and I would prefer to have a course if I have students, I would rather not build a course that is meant to be completed over the entire year, but I'd rather have them do 1 or 2 courses or more in the course of a year, so that they can get the course completion certificates. They can watch their percentage complete go up. So I like the Carol course, which is referred to as ACE in CodeHS. And then typically the second thing they would do after Carol is the Intro to JS. And I'll be talking about specific modules and lessons in there. And, I have a whole other speech about badges and course completion certificates. And the students really like badges. They like badges when they play their online games, and they sure like badges that they earn in CodeHS. And lately I've actually been printing out the badges and signing them and handing them to the students, which is pretty easy to do in CodeHS. And, we then can talk about students learning to sort of be the architects of their own education, which is a topic for another time. But chasing badges, chasing CodeHS certificates, trying to get to the course completion is a good goal for students to have. Let's go forward. As we move forward, sample code, there are all kinds of learning tools. And at this point, I think I'm probably going to segue into a screen share with my Carol and JavaScript courses. And there, in addition to the content, which is in lectures and slides, there's sample code and problem guides that CodeHS provides. And the sample code can be just a tremendous learning tool for your students. Give them a break from trying to have running code at the conclusion of an exercise, and everybody take a look at some code that does run together and talk about it. What's going on here? What happens in line 5? What is this? What would happen if we change this for loop? Is there another way to do this? I mean, just about every time you see for, you could probably use while to do the same thing. How would you do that with while? What are the branches of this code? What happens if you change the value of a constant? All the different things you can mess with are there, laid out for you by CodeHS in running code in a lesson. And it's a mistake that I've made, and I've watched students make it as they move through a CodeHS lesson, to give only a quick cursory glance at the sample code, and when in fact the sample code is just a lovely sort of running thing that you can play with because it's there and working. So let me segue here to a different share of my course.
And as you get that working, Joe, yeah, we do have a question. So I know we have a lot of people who are brand new to CodeHS.
Yeah.
So the layout of the lessons usually starts with a video that introduces a concept, gives students some information about maybe a new command, and then they have some examples, which Joe was just talking about. And then students are writing exercises on their own. So we did have a teacher who was asking, a lot of times they're experiencing the students kind of skipping through the introduction video and then getting stuck and wondering, why they can't figure it out. Have you found a successful way to make sure that the students stay engaged in the video, or focus their attention before moving on to the activities?
That's a great question, Julia. And I'll tell you, when I'm in class, I will typically teach with the slides rather than watching the video. I like the video as a resource for students who are working on their own. But typically in my classes, we have the option of looking at slides. Let me see if I can open one of these. I should have a share going here. You guys can see this CodeHS course now.
Yep.
Julia.
Yep, and that's a great point. Even just as you're hopping in here, there are a lot of resources for you as you're teaching with CodeHS. And like I had said, we know that you have so many different needs in your classroom. So though there is the video, like Joe is saying, it doesn't mean you have to use the video. You can use the slides and teach it yourself.
So the advantage to me, Julia, for the slides is that I can adjust the speed. And there are some topics that you want to slow down a bit and sort of really work hard on a particular concept. And the slides let you do that, let you slow down. And then there are other things where you can kind of either breeze through or ignore. Now, but you shouldn't, I don't like leaving it up to the students to make that decision, and I can certainly understand why. Mainly, it's not because they're being overly casual about it, but they're usually just so dying to like get another exercise going and get to the solution to that so they can move to the next one. It's their enthusiasm that's driving them past the video. So if you click, if you can see where my mouse is, if you can click on slides, then you essentially have the video content available to you. Let me see if that opens. You better close some browser tabs, Mr. Thompson. And you can just march through this deck at the pace that you want. And in this particular video lesson, we're talking about the build tower. And you could, throw your students out some questions about which way Carol's facing and why they would maybe want to combine these commands into a build tower function. You can't turn right, so we need a function called turn right that's made of 3 turn lefts. And a function is a way to teach Carol a new word, back to the idea that computers are dumb. We have to be very, very explicit about how we tell a computer to do something. Well, in the first Carol section, there is a very important exercise called Pyramid of Carol. And what that teaches students is that if you don't build functions, you're going to have a long, annoying task of explicitly saying for every detail what to do. But if you do have a turn right function, suddenly something like Pyramid of Carol gets a lot easier. So this is an area where you might take an individual slide and take a little bit of time talking about it, asking students questions. Did you notice that in Pyramid of Carol, it was pretty annoying having to write, 25 lines of code or 35 or whatever it takes to write Pyramid of Carol. Oh, well, they gave us an exercise that's built to be annoying. So we want to teach Carol how to turn right. And there we write a function with 3 turn left commands, and we have the ability suddenly to turn right, and we can use that ability whenever we want. You could talk about scope here, which is everything between the brackets is the body of the function. Well, curly braces are something your students are going to see as long as they're writing code. So this is a great moment to look at this through the lens of just taking a slide and talking about it. And there's the body of the function. And then we get to the end and you hit continue and you can move on to some sample code. And these quizzes, I might as well say while we're on here, I do not value the quizzes a little bit very much. I look at them as memory jogs, or, and sometimes you might want to use them to heighten a discussion of the thing. So you could maybe ask students why some of the other answers are wrong. We know that Carol has to turn left 3 times in order to turn right. And, you might ask a student why 1 or 4 are wrong and what can be used to teach Carol to turn right functions. So we would click this, but I typically don't spend a ton of time. So because this is one of my students, I don't have the ability to check this, and I did not enroll. I do have a tip for you guys. Make sure don't do as I did, do as I say. Make sure that you enroll as a student in all of your classes that you're teaching, so that you can hop in as a student when you're doing something on the screen or doing something with your projector. You can teach that with the student experience. It will help you. So make sure that you are enrolled as a student in these. All right. So then we have some sample code here. And this is something I was saying earlier. We're still in one of the very early Carol lessons. And this is a great moment to look at this code with your students, look at all the different features the IDE is offering. And again, this is a very special IDE that CodeHS has created and tuned and honed over the years that offers an awful lot of great features, but is still not intimidating. And it's a tremendous part of why CodeHS is so successful. So you're looking at this code and we know this is going to run. This is running sample code. And first, of course, we can click run and see it run. And there goes Carol at a reasonable speed and putting down those 2 balls in line 3 and 4. And we do have this slider adjustment. to adjust the speed with which the program runs. And if I move this slider to the right, it runs really fast. And you're going to see all your students immediately think that the best way to do CodeHS is to throw that slider all the way to the right. And you may want to encourage them to not have it set at the super fastest speed. And then we have this nice bar built here, which has a lot of other good features to it. And there are even more in the exercises. So here is the assignment, basically have Carol put down 2 balls instead of 1. There's the ending world. And we have docs, which is a nice handy tab for documentation. And again, if you're looking at sample code, you're going to be telling your students how they can use some of these things. And the beauty of Carol is that it just has these 4 commands that we're working with.
And I just want to interject that the docs is a good way for students, you know, if they did watch the video and kind of rush through it, this is a really good way to have all of the information that they need.
Absolutely right. They need to think really about 4 things, and CodeHS is providing all these things. They need to think about what is the assignment, and of course students want to just get something running and spend as little time as possible thinking about the assignment. They want to think about how they're going to respond to that assignment, so they need to be making some sort of plan of how they're going to solve the problem. So how are you going to move Carol 2 spaces? How are you going to put down 2 balls? And how are you going to then move Carol 2 spaces after that? And it gets more complicated, and which is why having some sort of problem solution design before you actually write implementation is important. And then write the code and then test it. And what CodeHS is doing with its autograder is simply testing the code to see if it answers the need. And sometimes you get all the way through that first iteration and you don't have a solution, you don't have running code. And I teach my students to expect that it's probably going to take a couple looks before you get this thing right. So now we come to actual exercises. This is such a great moment because this is something all your students are going to get to, and they're going to this is where they will realize that they can write, they can become coders, and this comes pretty quickly on the first day. And the assignment is here, and they see that they need to get to a place where there is no ball from a place where there is a ball. So they're going to write 4 moves: move, 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 and take ball, using one of these 4 commands. And so they start writing that. Some of them might forget the parens. Some of them might not write semis at the end of a line of a statement. They'll get through it. And then you also have students that will not use this check code button, which runs the tests and gives you the green. So I encourage you to teach your students to use this check code button because it shows you the actual test that CodeHS applies to their exercises. The assignment, a design, some implementations, the code that they're going to write, and then the test. And then we have the docs available, and then you do have this ability to grade students yourself or to pass along a comment about what you saw them write. You can even write canned responses. I have a couple in here. I have one, put your helper functions below the main code, etc. Let's push on. Short stack. These are just tremendous. The early part of Carol is a tremendous time, and you're going to see, you're probably going to have a loud classroom at this point as you work through these early Carol exercises. That's great. Having students talking to other students is great. Having them jump up and down when they get something completed and it works well is great. Having them be on different exercises at different moments of the class is fine, in my opinion. Just keep moving, this idea of movement. And then I think this one is a debug problem here. Let's look at the assignment. Yeah, so we're given some code that has some bugs and we're going to fix those. And, you know, they may have left out a semicolon or something like that here, and we fix those and then we run it and we can move forward. So
Hey,
all of a
Joe,
sudden, yes.
your screen seems kind of blurry.
Hmm.
Is it possible for you to reshare?
Yeah.
And while we're doing that, we can also just have you explore some of these lessons that Joe was showing you, since you're part of the course. Joe, you were doing turn right?
Yep. Here we go.
Another thing regarding the slides, a lot of folks are asking questions about the slides. So as far as the slides, if you, because we want to be really mindful that a lot of folks are on the free plan.
Yeah.
You can always pause or screenshot, because the videos use the slides. So you can always modify or screenshot, or throw the slides into a different format for yourself so that you can use them the way that Joe's talking about as well.
Mm-hmm. So the good news is this is just going to be a tremendous experience for your students, I can't say enough how valuable the early lessons in Carol and the entire Carol course are. And we've just gotten through lesson 1 here, but we're going to push forward a little bit. Portia, is it looking any better now, or we still have this blurry problem?
Yes, it's looking better. I know that the
you.
text is kind of small, so maybe you want to show the settings of how to make it bigger. Like what would this
Sure.
look like for a teacher to be able to go over the lesson?
So I would routinely mess with that. I do that all the time, and you can just on a Mac do Command Shift Plus to make it bigger. You can adjust your. Does that look better, Portia? Maybe.
Yes, it does.
So yeah, I would encourage playing with optimizing the view, and what else is there about looking at stuff? I think a lot of times students are, this will be referring to more of the lessons further down the road, but they tend to leave these vertical blocks up, and you can move these verticals here. Maybe I can't write at this moment, but you can see that. And so sometimes when you have long lines of code, if you're writing a long line, or you want to see more of what you're doing in the actual text entry area, you'll want to adjust these. Or you can click this blue square down here, and it gives you just the code entry area. So a lot of cool features here. This IDE is basically built to provide a lot of functionality of pro IDEs, but it's not as intimidating as Atom or some of the other stuff that people who are writing code for a living are using. Portia, do you think this would be a good time to take a break? You want me to go a little further into this Carol thing? What do you think?
We are at the halfway point, so do you want to just take a 5-minute break, and then we'll start back up at 12:10?
Let's do that. And I will proceed further into Carol and then the JS when we come back after the break.
Perfect. If you would like to spend this time to explore the exercises, I went ahead and put it into the chat, just to, play around and just see what the course is like. And we'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And hop back in. But just to let you all know, so we're going to take a look for another about 20 minutes into the course, and then we're going to have our session. So I see a lot of you asking questions about how to get started, how to create your own section, and all of that. At 30 after, we're going to be diving into all of that. So don't worry, that is coming. All right, take it away, Joe.
Okay, so I'm glad we had a chance to go through a lesson, which is lesson 1. And I'm going to go through the rest of this important Carol course. I'm sort of going to pick up speed, and we'll be talking as we move more about overall lessons or even modules as we push forward here. So we move to lesson 2. By the way, this introductory Carol unit is something you can use with groups of parents. You could do it on back to school night. It is just a fabulous first exposure to coding. I highly recommend. So in lesson 2, we're going to be doing more with functions like make a tower. And we have this tennis ball square where we're building a square of tennis balls, and you notice that there are blocks of code here separated by a space, and notice that they're all the same set of 3 commands. So you could potentially be thinking about how you would want to repeat that again and again.
Sorry, Joe, I'm going to hop back in. It looks like the screen is a little blurry again. So maybe if we can
stop
just
and reshare.
try to reshare. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Here we go. Boom. We better?
Looks good for now. I'll let you know if it happens again.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Thank you. All right. So we're moving into Carol, and you should be expecting a lot of happy students in here. This is a great moment where pretty much, you know, you're going to see students are going to be in different places and moving forward, but it's exciting for them to get this idea that they can write this stuff. And I think one of the genius things is that CodeHS limits the number of commands to 4 at the start. So then we move to, and all of these, the famous pyramid of Carol, which is your students are going to end up writing this, and it's going to take them quite a lot of commands to get that all written. They're going to be a lot of turning, this, that, and the other thing, and this is essentially going to make them realize what a great utility it would be to be able to write a function. And then we have this debugging thing, and let's go to lesson 3. So lesson 3 is how we introduce the turn right function. Let's go. Let's go to the first one, sorry. So if we go through the slides real quick. Let's go network. Here we go. All right. So we're going to be building a tower using a function that we don't have at the moment. We can't just say turn right. We go turn left, turn left, turn left. And we build a function that lets Carol turn right. And I like this slide deck, which I've already been through with you guys. And then we have a little quiz that I typically devalue. And then we go to some sample code. And then we have these 2 exercises here. Slide Carol. So if they have a turn right function here, which they would write first, they can just go move, turn right, put ball, move, turn right, move, put ball, move, turn left, move, put ball, and they're finished. They've got that. So writing that turn right function will really help them get through this, and you'll have students sort of nudging each other, helping along, and you can really establish that nice collaboration. And then we have a fireman Carol, which again makes a turn right function be really useful, because if you have turn right, you just go turn right, move, 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 turn left, and you're here at this nice result world. So let's go back and see if we can choose another level.
I think you're going to need to reshare again.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Thank you for getting me on that, Julie.
Yeah. Yeah, Zoom is not happy right now.
Here we go. So I'm going to speed up just a twidge here and talk about, as we move through this Carol thing, what do I like and what I don't like. I like just about everything. So as we move through, let's see, we've done the Carol can't turn right. Let's go back home. I'm gonna have to go to my sections, and I'll answer that question about creating a section in a second. So next we have functions in Carol. As the part of our second module, this whole thing would be a module, and you're certainly free to add things like videos or delete things from any of these. If you find a particular exercise that you don't like, or you'd rather teach in a different way, you simply can in the assignments thing over on the left, when you're looking at the whole section, you can eliminate a particular exercise if you don't like it. So in this functions one, we have a slide deck, a quiz, and then this turnaround sample code, which I'm going to show here. So there we've written the turnaround function, which is 2 turn lefts, and we've defined it here underneath our main code, and we call it in that second line. And so this is pretty sophisticated stuff our students are doing right away. And then we are going to make pancakes, and that's going to be a function where Carol puts 3 balls down, calling that put ball function 3 times. And it's okay for you guys to do some coding, I know, up on the screen or whatever, or watch your students push forward with it. Backflip I really like. Let's push on to lesson 2, which is more practice with functions. Digging Carol, really good. This is all good. Build a shelter, good. Nothing particularly troublesome or irksome in this second module here. Then we have a start function. And let's go show how tower would be built with a start function.
Yeah, Joe, so you are a little blurry again, but while you fix that, I think that we only have about 10 more minutes to dive in there. If you want to show anything about like how you structure your lessons, maybe like if you use the lesson plan or any of those handouts or any of that, that might be helpful for everyone to see. Okay,
you know what I'm going to do, Julia, is I'm going to talk about the toolbox. I'm going to depart a little bit from my plan.
Perfect. That would be awesome.
So you're sitting there as teachers, listening to this guy who's been teaching for 8 years with CodeHS, rip through these lessons and talk about this and that on the particular lessons. But I need to tell you guys who are particularly newer that CodeHS is giving you all kinds of incredible tools to build your lessons. And I want to point out some of the ones that I use all the time. This progress thing, which I'll come back to, is super important. I use this all the time. It lets you look at your students' progress, lets you award badges. You can set due dates. Resources, tremendous teaching resources available here in CodeHS, and I use them all. The lesson plans will give you actually built out lesson plans for a particular module or particular lesson or particular day. And these are tremendously useful. I encourage you to go into Toolbox, Resources, Lesson Plans, and look at these. And then these 2 other things, problem guides are specific for every exercise in CodeHS. There is a fairly thorough explanation along with running code. And these problem guides are incredible teaching tools. And I urge you to use these problem guides. Don't hold these back. Use these in your classes, print them out, pass them out if you feel like it would help. We want to be talking about running code, and you can't do all your work for all the students' work for them. But I think a lot of teachers undervalue the utility of these problem guides. These are tremendously useful. So let's take a look at a particular one.
And just a note, all of the lesson plans and problem guides are a pro feature, but you do have access as a free teacher to the first 5 or 10 of these. So you can take a look and see how they're structured, get that information from the start, and then use that to continue throughout the course.
Yeah. I mean, Julie, is it all right if I advocate for pro versus free?
That's your choice. But yes, there are lots of teachers who teach on both free and pro. So I only ever got to use free when I was teaching.
Yeah. And I completely understand that resources are scarce, but if you ever pushed for anything, push hard for a pro. And just so you know, my school, we have a silver site license, which is even better. It lets us create as many sections as we want. And what that has done for us, what the silver license has done, is let us create lots and lots of sections for lots and lots of teachers. It's let a lot of teachers try CodeHS, which has been great for us. So that's another even level beyond pro. But anyway, so here we are looking at a problem guide, and this is a problem guide. It gives a description of the problem, gives a motivation, gives running code that you can run, and answers typical questions that may come up. So I like to use these a lot. I think they're very helpful. Let's go back into the toolbox. Handouts are slightly different. These are really helpful in your classes to work with printed stuff. And it's an interesting question, like to what extent, I always get asked this question, to what extent do we expect students to be taking notes? And my answer is that I think note taking is an important skill in learning CS, and that you do want to track how you solved a problem. If you have students working in a little notebook, middle school students who are sort of learning to take notes, it's a good thing for them to say, well, how did I plan to solve the problem? Rather than just diving in and writing their implementation, developing a plan is a good thing. So here are some of the handouts that you might give out for different lessons, and they can be really useful. Let's look at this one on basic. Let's go back. This is for a different course than the one I was looking at. Okay.
And we've seen people use these handouts as homeworks, as do nows, exit tickets, or even just like, in small groups with each other. So
they're terrific. They're terrific. And I do want you to try to make sure you're at least aware of all the different courses in CodeHS. It's a vast list. So you've got to make yourself go in that course catalog and look around and look at all the different ways that these have been shaped. Let's take a look at some of the code review stuff. Some of you guys will have really big classes. This fast grade tool is a tremendous time saver where you can it'll automatically pull up the next student's work and let you quickly look and grade. Most of the code that your students are submitting is going to be handled by the auto grader. So it's not like you're going to have to sit there and wait as a student to know whether you can go on to the next thing till the teacher gets a look at it. This auto grader will take care of it. But there's some stuff for you to grade as a teacher also. And this fast grade helps with that. While that's loading. Let's talk about this progress thing, because I do want to say this is a tremendous, this thing, activity mini map down here under data tracking is a tremendously useful tool. Let's see if I can get at one of my, so I have a bunch of students here in the summertime doing a CodeHS JS course with me. And if I look at their work, I can see on CodeHS when they logged in by day and how much work they did on each of these days. So I must be really getting through to Colin King because he's really doing a lot of work each day. But there's some other students that might only log in a couple times a week or not even much on one particular week. You can have a conversation with your students about effort and about what it takes to code. And, I like to say that this is not a discipline that rewards, huge amounts of effort followed by long periods of inactivity. You want to, instead of, if you think you're the type of student that can just blast through a whole bunch of stuff and then take 2 weeks off, it's a whole lot better to consistently do some work on a daily basis. So I find this activity mini map to be tremendously useful in having conversations with my students about how things are going for them. And that's there, right there. There's, you can talk about creating playlists, courses, problem banks are here, knowledge bases here. I find that CodeHS support is tremendous. So you also can go here and support if you have a simple, any kind of question really, you go to support and just open up a chat window and say, for example, I had an issue creating course completion certificates for some of my AP Java students, and you'll just send them a message and they'll get right back to you and usually can solve the problem. It's amazing how great the support people are. So there's a lot of stuff here under Toolbox. Let me go back into my sections and I'll answer that question about how to create a section. So we go to, let's look at my teacher page. Julie, is this still pretty clear?
Yep, this looks good. But just letting you know, we're gonna have Don go through all that stuff in a few minutes. So
Okay. All right.
yeah,
Then
don't
we'll
feel
leave
the
that.
pressure to have to show all that.
Well, okay, we'll leave that for now. Let me take 3 or 4 minutes and just go a little deeper into the JavaScript. Yeah, let's go a little deeper.
If you want to show the other modules,
yeah,
maybe after Carol, since we saw a lot of that, just the ones that you've used.
Let's do that. So these are my students. This is a pretty interesting group I've had this summer. They've been doing work like crazy, and they're actually, some of these are 9th graders who are now starting to write Java. And so I look at this JavaScript course as a really important building block that you must or should have students do before they are going to write object-oriented programming like the Java language. And I love that this JavaScript lesson, we're now in the module after Carol, uses graphics. So when you use your code to write some graphics, you are going to get pretty instant feedback on how your code is running. And if we look at Flag of the Netherlands, for example, there we go. Colin's on vacation this week. He's been doing a ton of work. So he's creating these 2 variables, one called red rectangle and one called blue rectangle, and they are of type rectangle. And they are using the whole width and 1/3 of the height, and then you end up with a nice flag out of it if you run it. So we're into full-blown JavaScript now with lots of different possibilities for doing pretty cool things with graphics. And then I'm going to hop back out. You don't really have to see it run, although it's cool when it runs. There we go. So I actually like using graphics in coding, and I'm going to find some ways to put some graphics into my Java course this coming year, which I'm looking forward to. Let's hop back out my sections. Summer JS. So we're now in the teacher page. I'll just look at another couple of modules here. I'm not going to actually dive into any of them. Hold on, let's see. Let's look at Collins. I would say, as a general thing, you will notice that a lot of the CodeHS courses have these challenges built into them. And I understand the idea of making sure that our most advanced students can do tricky stuff. And I think the challenges are good. But again, I'd be careful, be wary of the pothole of, students getting frustrated or spending tons and tons of time. I like to have them keep moving. Now, control structures and functions are super important concepts, and CodeHS does this very well. This module on control structures is fantastic. It covers while loops, if statements, for loops, logical operators, just a terrific module. I can't think of anything that I don't like about this particular one. Look out, keep your eyes peeled on these challenges ones that, and you have the ability to pull exercises out of here or de-emphasize them. So you might want to look at sort of the last exercise in a challenge module and say, do I really want my guys doing that one? Then this animation and games thing is just tremendous. It really makes your students think about code, and they are going to absolutely love this thing. The bouncing ball one, if you take a student who's getting started coding and say, in a month or two, a few months, you're going to be doing this, they would be pretty psyched. So let's run it. We're basically getting a ball bouncing around the screen using this animation. And anyway, I think this animation games module is tremendous.
All right, Don, I think you're unmuted. So awesome. Yes, we got it working. A little slowly, but it's going.
There we go. So I think maybe it's time to do the breakout rooms at this point.
Yeah, I think you've given such a good overview of all these different pieces. And if anyone has any specific questions for Joe about how he's used these or things he's run into, he obviously has a lot of experience with so many different parts of CodeHS. So Portia is going to get our breakout rooms ready to go. So in the main room, if you just stay here, you're going to be meeting with Don to see how to get all of those, your courses set up. Any of those questions on customization, how do you add things in? How do you take them out? And I had dropped in, I know that there's a lot of difference and questions around what's included if I'm just on free. Again, a lot of us that were using CodeHS in the classroom did use free for, part of, if not the whole time that we were in the classroom. So totally an option for you to still be able to use all of the curriculum. Every piece of curriculum is free. So you can use any of those courses. But I did drop a link into the chat to let you know those details about what is included and what is not. But if you have any more questions about that, it's definitely great to ask Don during this session for him to go through a little bit more of in detail of those tools. But we are going to have an optional breakout room. Don, do you have the slide deck to share just so that they'll know how to hop in to join the room if they would like to? I think, yeah. So you'll see here, there's going to be a breakout room option and you're not going to automatically be put into it. So if you would like to go into breakout room 1, me and Joe are going to head in there and be there to answer any of your questions about the course or ask Joe about his experience in the classroom using CodeHS. So you have the option to join that room if you would like to get more information there. Or if you just stay where you are, you can learn a little bit from Don and maybe just have some time to play around with CodeHS and see if everything's making sense or if some questions are coming up. And if any of those questions do come up during this time, just make sure you throw it in the parking lot. I know that the chat is right there, but we don't want to miss any of those and have you have a question that wasn't answered. So all right, I think the breakout room is open. So if you would like to head into room 1, me and Joe are going to head in there and we'll be there to chat with you until about 10 minutes at the end of the hour. All right, see you there.
Make sure I'm unmuted here. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. I just set up a free account right now because I want to just assume that many, if not most of you, are working off a free account because I saw a lot of questions about it. I've used Pro and free both myself as well. And right now, this is what it looks like. I just set up a brand new everything, and this is the page that I came to. So if you're like me and you're just starting an account right now, I don't have any sections in here yet. There's nothing to see. So I'm going to click this create new section button, this green button up in the top right corner. And when I do that, it's going to give me some different options for creating my section. I'm going to show you the Roblox course. You saw JavaScript and you saw some of the other options we have. I'm going to show you because it's my baby. I made the course, so I'm kind of fond of it. Creating a game in Roblox. We'll call it 2022. And I click next. And now it gives me options for how to choose my course. I don't have any courses set up yet because this is a brand new free account that I just created. I'm going to go look at middle school. I'm clicking on middle school. Here's all these cool courses. The digital art with P5JS is also cool. It's JavaScript that focuses on art. It's a smaller course. Oh, and look at that, creating a game in Roblox. There's also coding in science or math. Lots of really neat stuff. I'm going to click choose for creating a game in Roblox. Here it is. I don't have any students yet, but you know what I'm going to do? This code right here, this link, I'm going to put this in chat right now, and you can join my section as a student. So you can see it from the student view as well. Let me get the chat back open. And you can go ahead and join this class right now, and then I can show you a little bit, what I can do with you as students if you want to join in this. And now, as I take a look here, and oh, wow, I've already got a number of students. You're such good students. Can I just commend you on your studentry? So I've got this course. All right. You'll notice the interface is a little different and free. Like you don't see the sliders, the percentages of what they have. Totally okay. I could go in, let's say to Stacy's account, and I don't have any assignments listed yet. Once students do things, you'll see their progress in here. But when I go back out, I'm going to go back out from Stacy's to my teacher page. Awesome. I got all these students in here. This is fantastic. By the way, I encourage you to go through this course. It's a little different. There's videos in the beginning, but I set it up as almost all slides. So you click through for this course. It's a prototype course for something new that I was given permission to try. When I click on assignments, though, over here on the left, I don't necessarily have the things listed in here yet. Let me click on this. Here's my course assignments. I'm in the teacher view. You can also switch to student view up here as well. Let me close this pop up here. And it's split up 4 modules. And when I open up the modules, you'll see it's an introduction to Roblox. I teach students how to build in Roblox, how to do some scripting. All the scripts are provided. They just copy and paste them into a third-party thing called Roblox Studio, which is a free download. And then customization and beyond is students completing their obby. Obby is short for obstacle course. My daughter's taught me all this stuff. We play Roblox together all the time. So let's say I'm in here. So there's modules. The entire big thing here. This has 4 modules, just so you understand the layout. When you go into a module, there's units, and then within the units, there are different exercises. It says that these are videos, but as I click this little eyeball to show you, I have it set up as slides, so you can just click through and learn, what the interface is. You download it, you learn how to create objects. There's a little bit of an element of CAD in this as well. This is just the slides for that. Okay, so let me get back out of here because I have a lot I want to share with you in 20 minutes here. That's the slides for that particular lesson. If you look over here, you can move stuff around. Like here's where I can start customizing. This is where I can start customizing my lesson. And this is in the slides as well, but I want to demo for you because I have 20 minutes and I want to show you by doing. And so I'm just going to jump right in and show you this stuff. So let's say, these modules are set up the way they're supposed to be set up. They're in order. But let's say you wanted to add another module. I could click here up in this add button. I could add a whole extra module of like fun stuff, not in this course. I was going to make it really long, but I'm a teacher and I have all these resources that I already want to use and put in there. Boom, I added a whole extra module down here now. In that module, 20 hours, I see a comment, it's a 20-hour course. However, obstacle courses can be expanded upon. It could be a full quarter. I offer this to high school kids too. I have some friends that are high school kids, and you can you can really scaffold. You can have them build more advanced models. Some obstacle courses have hundreds of stages. So as much as kids want to get into it and start creating rather than just consuming games, that's just an option. But the things I'm showing you go for all the courses. I'm just showing you how to customize and add stuff. You could add stuff to the JavaScript course as well, or the gaming and JavaScript course. And in the future, we're talking about making a semester and a year-long version of the Roblox course as well. This is just a brand new. And so, yeah, you don't need any coding experience for this. All the scripts are provided. It's anyway, I added a full module down here, and I can put new lessons in if I want to. I can click and I can add lesson titles like first fun thing. that I wanted to add. And there's a lesson, and I can customize what this is. Okay, I'll get to that in just a second. Let's say I already have a module and it's intro to Roblox, and I've got, intro to game design here. It talks a little bit about, what makes a game fun. Let's say I want to put a brief history of gaming in here. Well, I can customize as well. There's this incredible right here. It says add new assignment. It's a free tool. It's super powerful. It's like the one tool to rule them all that I tell all free teachers about. You get all these choices to put stuff into the course. When I made the course as a curriculum developer, these are the same options that I had. So you have the power, theoretically, to start and build your whole own CodeHS course by yourself and put everything in it. You don't have to do that. We provide the digital file cabinet for you. You don't have to make your own course. But let's say I want to embed a really cool video that I've been showing my students for years. I'm going to click video. Okay. I've got this little activity thing here. I've already pulled this video up for you. It's a TED video, TED talk about a brief history of video games. So just play it for a quick second. I might not have shared my audio, so you won't be able to hear that video perhaps. I'm not sure if I shared my audio when I did that. But let's just, I copy the URL from this YouTube page. Boom, this awesome video that I have. I go back to my create assignment tool and I put a brief history of video games. And I spell it right. And then here's the URL. Boom, put it right there. Uploading videos from the computer, I'll have to try that. I would suggest, Cherry, to make sure that works, that you would upload your video to your own personal YouTube and use that. I don't know about uploading files straight up. You might be able to. I haven't tried that yet. And this is not block coding. And you can learn Carol first for sure, or this. Eventually, we'll have a version of this that it syncs like Carol does. But for this, you can pretend this is a JavaScript course as well, the course that it is. I got the URL here, and I'm going to put a brief description. Students, watch this video for context on the beginning of video games and the industry. Not the industry, the industry. And I hit save and continue. This is all stuff. There's time and settings and grading settings, and it's cool. Some folks like to lock things down if they're pro. I used to give the kids the key to the Ferrari and say, go as fast as you, figuratively speaking. I don't want to give children keys to a fast car. But when it comes to coding, I would let kids go as fast as they wanted to. And so I click save and finish. Boom, activity is created. I can preview it, or I can click close. I'll preview it in just a moment. Let me click close here. And there it is, a brief history of video games. It's sitting down here at the bottom. And these three dots over on the side, I can click and move it up to where I want it to be. Like you can't necessarily drag it around yet. Our engineers are always adding cool stuff like that. But I'm going to put it right up here after the quick quiz about the intro to game design, which is a video. We have a couple of videos in the beginning of this, and then the rest are all slideshows. And now it's there. It's right there in the course. It's awesome. I can preview it. When I look at it, there's the video embedded in our interface. Here's what I typed. Students, watch this video for context on the beginning of the video games and the industry. And they can just click here and watch it. And it's so powerful to be. How many of you have a really amazing article on the internet, or that video that Joe showed us in the beginning, right? That inspires your students, that you want to throw in there. You could put any article you find on the web. You could put any video in there. You can make your own exercises. This is like when I found out that this was in the free plan, I was like, yeah, free teachers deserve an awesome tool like this too. And I can literally, like, if I can click, I can move this assignment. If I was like, oh, you know what? I don't want it in this module. I'm going to move it up to what is Roblox. Well, I can move to a different lesson right here with the organize button. And I'm going to choose what is Roblox. And I'm going to move it. It left this one. Let me close this. And now it's up here in this one. It's at the bottom. I'd have to use the 3 dots to move it up and down again, you know, to kind of get it where I want it to be up top. And, you know, there it is. Brief history of video games. I can move it down. I could remove it if I don't want it there. There's all kinds of other assignments. This is like the single most powerful customization tool that in my opinion, you can make your own quizzes. You can, if you know enough about coding, you can make a coding exercise like the ones that already exist. You can create practice problems with your own auto graders. That's something that would come after you've been using this for a while and you understand. I always suggest you go through these courses yourself. Summertime's a great time to do that, because then when students have questions, you'll just be on it. You'll understand because you will have made the same mistakes the students are making. Articles, you know, really neat articles, inspiration. There might be a hackathon. There might be some cybersecurity challenge for high school. You can put all kinds of articles to any links. Notes are pages that kind of function almost like a scrolling blog. Let me show you an example of how I use notes in this course. I'm going to close this for now. There's a blank new assignment. I'm just going to remove it because I'm going to get that out of there. Click remove. Yes. I'm also going to remove this brief history of video games because I'm just going to leave the course as it is in case I have other folks look at this. When I have Roblox set up, you see how it says notes here? For this particular type of an exercise, and you can add this in yourself. Let's say this is a notes thing that I embedded screenshots and I used instructions for how you actually download both Roblox, which is the place where you play the games, and Roblox Studio, which is where you build the games. There's 2 distinct things, Roblox Client and Roblox Studio. And I just embedded pictures and text in here. You know, some people just use notes as one thing that pops up in the beginning or a quick instruction, but I did it as a scrolling, almost like Instagram-like feed. So if you go to this page and you follow through and you click the link and you do all this, you will have an account. That's just like that. You can add notes things in. So if you had step-by-step stuff that you wanted your students to be able to do, you could use the notes thing as well. And then in addition, there's a couple more down here, the free responses. You can have students like, if you wanted them to write a quick essay on what they're learning, or like, what have you learned so far? What have been some of the challenges you've faced? What have been some of the successes that you've found as you go through the course? You can sprinkle those in too. So it's like, we give you this awesome recipe to make this epic meal, you know, to facilitate coding greatness in your students. And you're all good cooks yourself. You might want to put some of your spices in. You might want to put a dessert in, some frosting. You know, there's a lot of things you might want to put into this. And you can also embed activities from other websites. I haven't fully fleshed that out yet, but if somebody asked me about Pear Deck, a couple other things, I would say toy around with this embed tool if you have things in other sites that you want to try to embed, maybe Google Slides or something else along those lines. And this particular tool, this create new assignment tool, is it's like customization heaven for any of our courses, not just Roblox. Like, I'm showing you this because I've got 10 and 12-year-old daughters, and they're the reason why I even proposed this to my bosses, and they were like, oh yeah, give it a shot. And it became wildly popular at the end of last year. And it's short. So if you wanted to piece together other things from our catalog, you'd be able to work this in and kind of craft your experience for your students. You're all individuals, you're all teachers, you're gonna find what you're going to get in where you fit in and find out what works best for you in your classroom. These are some of the slides that are there. I talked about reordering the modules using the 3 dots on the side, removing content. I showed you that. I mean, you don't just have to remove content that is stuff that you put in. There might be a particular exercise that you think is way too hard, and you can just delete it once you create your course. I showed you how to do that. I showed you how to add assignments, create assignments. That is like we have supplemental materials and all that as well. But creating your own assignments and putting your own stuff in videos and articles and notes and different free responses and things like that, that gives you a tremendous amount of power as a free teacher. You know, as Joe talked a lot about the pro stuff. So those of you that are pro teachers, I encourage you to check that stuff out. But I wanted to definitely come at this purely from a free teacher standpoint. And talked about, you can add assignment content from the course catalog as well when you go to add assignment. Creating your own content. I just talked about this as well, adding your own modules. I talked about adding your own lessons. This is the video that was shown earlier. And so that is, in a nutshell, I'm sorry if I was talking fast, but I wanted to make sure, because with about 5 to 6, 7 minutes left, we like to turn it over, you know, to Joe to wrap up, to Julia and Portia to also wrap up some things. But I wanted to, you know, kind of give you all the things here. You know, I wanted to make sure I worked hard to give you all of these options. And yes, the slide presentation is in, if you have the question parking lot, Bernice, it's in there, but Portia can give you the slide presentation again as well. And always remember that create assignment tool. When you go into a course and it says add assignment anywhere in there, you go in and boom, you have all the power. Like, it's all turned over to you, and you can add in modules, and you can, you know, rearrange, delete stuff, bring stuff in, you can customize it. And it's, you know, I wouldn't have used CodeHS. I've used it for as long as Joe has, and I wouldn't have used it if it wasn't the best thing I could find. And I loved it so much that I asked them if they'd please let me work here, and thankfully they said yes. So I hope that you got something out of that. You know, I hope that you were able to customize, understand how to start start your course from nothing. And now, you know, I'll turn it back over to the other folks here, and you can always contact me if you want, Don Gamble at CodeHS.com, if you have questions about this, or if you have questions about the Roblox course or anything like that. So thanks for listening and letting me share this with you. And I hope you have success customizing your courses as well.
Thanks, Don. If you could just share. Oh, all right. That's good. I'll do it. All right. Let's share this. Okay. All right. So just to finish up, we have just about 5 minutes left together. Thank you, Joe, so much for giving us so much information about your experience in the classroom teaching these courses. We had a lot of great questions in our breakout room as well. But I just want to plug again. I heard Don was just mentioning it, but use CodeHS support anytime you need. There are so many tools. Honestly, you might be doing something, looking for something, thinking, oh, it would be so nice if this existed. And honestly, it probably does. So, and if it doesn't, honestly, I think we came out with 3 new tools yesterday. So we are always trying to make your lives easier. So use that support, write in anytime you have a question. And we have a lot of people there ready to help you out. So some other ways that you can get involved, we do have a certified educator program. So if you're interested in that, maybe you've used CodeHS for a while and you want to get more involved, ask about that. I think we're going to be dropping some links in the chat for you to get there. Yeah, awesome. We have lots of workshops that we run. The summer obviously is a crazy time. Lots and lots of free workshops that are either led by teachers or led by CodeHS. So keep an eye out for those. We also have a community on Slack. So if you are familiar with Slack, this is a nice way for you to network with other teachers who might be in similar scenarios to you, or might have experience that would really make your life a lot easier. We have a micro-credential program that you can take a look at and get some credentials in different CS topics. We also have a Facebook group, and we have Instagram, Twitter, all the things. So this is a really awesome way to stay involved and ask those questions and get answers from people who are, going through the same things as you. We have some upcoming workshops in the very near future. So tomorrow we are looking at the Arduino course, Physical Computing with Arduino. And this is very similar to our Physical Computing with Microbit course that I was talking about a little earlier. The Microbit is more geared towards middle school, Arduino geared more towards high school. But this is really great if you are, I saw people who were teaching robotics or anything with physical systems. This is a really awesome course to check out. So we're going to have a workshop on that tomorrow. And then next week on Tuesday, looking at Python using the sandbox. So I know we spoke a little bit in our room about the sandbox, but if that's something you know nothing about, or you've tried it out and you're like, I just want to know what else there is, there's that workshop would be really helpful for you as well. So you can register with that link that Portia dropped in there. And we have one survey. We are always trying to make these better. I have been running these summer workshops probably for like 4 or 5 years now. And honestly, we look at the survey, we're like, oh, this didn't work so well. This, people wanted this more. And we are really taking that into account. So please take a few minutes to just fill out that survey. And thank you so much for coming. We will stay on for the last few minutes. If anyone has any last questions, you can also still access that question parking lot doc. So if there was anything that isn't answered, hasn't gotten answered yet, or any links that we dropped in there that you want, you will still be able to access those. So thank you so much. Thank you, Joe, for all of your knowledge and information. It's so nice to hear about CodeHS from someone who is actually using it and seeing it every day. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day.